All right, everyone, let's get into the full camera walkthrough and the photo and the video samples for the S20 5G cameras. All right, and this one should actually be really quick because this one is coming off of the heels of my A54 5G coverage, and the S20 5G and the A54 5G are extremely similar. The only difference is the S20 5G can do a little bit more than what the A54 5G can do. All right, so basically we're going to highlight some of the differences, and then I'm going to attach all of my photo samples, then I'm going to attach all of my video samples, and we're going to close the video out. Now, in terms of similarities, the way you launch the cameras on the S20 5G and the A54 5G are the same, so I'm not going to cover that here because I already went over that in full detail in the A54 5G video. But basically, you can configure your power button to quickly launch you into the main camera interface. Okay? Other than that, you just find the camera icon wherever you have it located, tap on it, and it will bring you into the main camera interface. All right? Now, jumping into the main camera interface here, let's talk about what the S20 5G can do that the A54 5G can't do, right? And primarily, it comes down to three things, right? The S20 5G can record all the way up in 8K, 24 frames per second, okay? The A54 5G can only do up to 4K, 30 FPS on the front and the rear, okay? Now, the S20 5G can do 4K, 60 FPS on the front, but it can only do 8K, 24 FPS on the rear. So that's the first major difference between the two, okay? Secondly, you have portrait mode across both devices, but you only have portrait mode video for your S20 5G. You don't have portrait mode video for your A54 5G, okay? You only get regular portrait mode with the photos for your A54 5G. So that's the second major difference right there, okay? And the last major difference is with your S20 5G, you do have dual video recording. So as y'all can see, I can record video with the front-facing 10 megapixel camera and all of the rear-facing cameras at the same time, okay? We don't have dual recording with the A54 5G, even though it would have been really sweet if we did. We do not have that, okay? But we do have that on the S20 5G, okay? And basically, those are your three main differences between the devices, okay? Other than that, another difference between the devices is with your Pro Video mode, okay? You do have Pro Video mode with the A54 5G, but you don't have full overall microphone controls, okay? And you don't have dedicated Bluetooth microphone control support. So you can see we do, however, have that on the S20 5G. So we can control where the audio is coming from on the S20 5G. We can do that on the A54, but we do have support for wired audio via the USB Type-C port, and we have support for Bluetooth audio and a combination of Bluetooth and wired audio, right? We don't have Bluetooth audio support for the A54 5G, okay? That is the fourth and final main difference between the two devices. All right, so that pretty much runs through it, guys and gals, in terms of the differences between the cameras and the software on the A54 5G and the S20 5G. And basically, that's just what I wanted to highlight in this S20 5G full camera review / walkthrough video. Because other than that, they're basically the same, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and attach my photo samples that I've taken with the S20 5G. I'm going to also go ahead and attach my video samples that I've taken with the S20 5G. And I'm going to come back at the end of the video and let you guys and gals know if I could still recommend picking up this older flagship here in early 2024 or late 2023. I'll probably drop this coverage, I'm not sure when. But is it still worth it? Hopefully this video helps you guys and gals figure that out. All right, let me attach my photo samples, let me attach my video samples, and I will see you guys at the end of the video. Enjoy. I hope y'all find it helpful, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Peace. Alright everyone, welcome back to another video, and today we're getting into the camera testing with the rear and front facing cameras on the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G. Starting off here, we're testing out the front facing 10 megapixel camera in 720p at 30 fps with no external microphone hooked up. So we got a real quick stationary vlog style camera test here. So let me know what you guys and gals think of this. How's the overall detail? How's the overall stabilization? How's the overall audio? Let me know your feedback down below. Alright, now let me go ahead and spin the cameras around and let's get into testing out the rear facing cameras in this same lighting scenario. Give me 1 second, I'll be right back with everyone for the next set of clips. I'll see you guys and gals in a little bit. Alright everyone, so now as promised, all I did was spin the cameras around, and now we're getting into testing out the rear facing primary 64 megapixel camera and the two ultra wide 12 megapixel camera and telephoto 12 megapixel camera on the rear of the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G. This is also being recorded in 720p at 30 fps with no external microphone hooked up. So y'all let me know how you feel the cameras perform. And without further ado, let's dive into the testing. So we're going to do our pans, we're going to do our exposure test, we're going to do our zoom test. We're going to test out all the good stuff here. Let's start off with the pans. Here we go. We're on the ultra wide. We're going to pan 2 times twice and then switch to the primary. Here we go. So we're going to start from here and go all the way through to right about there and back. We're going to do this 2 times. So that was 1. Here we go with number 2. Okay, and that was number 2. Now let's bring it back to the center and let's switch to the primary 64 megapixel camera. Now we're on the primary 64 megapixel camera and let's go again. So we're gonna pan all the way from here, all the way through to right about there and back. We're gonna do it 2 times. So that was number 1. Here we go with number 2. Boom. And let's bring it back to the center now. Now let's go back to the ultra wide and let's test out the exposure. So we're gonna pan up and down to the ground, and what we want is a nice even transition from the lighter areas of the scene to the darker areas of the scene with minimal to no exposure blowout. And if the cameras do blow out, we want them to recover as evenly and as quickly as possible. So here we go, we're gonna pan up and down with the ultra wide twice, then we're gonna pan up and down with the primary twice, and I want y'all to tell me again how you feel the cameras perform. Let's go, ultra wide first. So we're lined up on the tree and we're going down to the ground. Boom. That's 1. Coming back up and going back down. Boom. That's 2. Okay. That was with the ultra wide. Here we go. Let's switch to the primary. Now we're on the primary 64 megapixel sensor. Let's do it again. So lined up on the tree and we're going down to the ground. And we're coming up. That's 1. And we're going back down. And we're coming up. That's 2. So how did the ultra wide cameras do? How did the primary cameras do? Alright, now let's jump back to the ultra wide and let's do a focusing test. Now everything the ultra wide can do, the primary can do, and everything the primary can do, the ultra wide can do, except for record in 8K at 24 fps. The only camera that you can record in 8K with is your primary 64 megapixel sensor. Everything else can record in up to 4K at 60 fps. All right? Now, let's get started here. Primary, we have continuous autofocus as well as tap to focus. We're going to test both 2 times. Continuous autofocus first. So let's pick our subjects. We got our bushes to the left. We got our big tree to the center. And we got our pillar to the right. Okay, let's see how these perform. Let's go. Continuous autofocus first. Here we go. Bushes. That looks good. Tree. That also looks good. Pillar. That also looks good. That's 1. Bushes again. Looking good. Tree. Looking good. Pillar. Looking good. That's 2. All right, let me adjust my grip. Tap to focus time. Here we go. Bushes. Tap. Locked up. Tree. Tap. Locked up. Pillar. Tap. Locked up. Good stuff. That was 1. Let's go again. Bushes. Tap. Locked up. Tree. Tap. Locked up. Pillar. Tap. Locked up. Really good stuff with this ultra wide camera. Really good stuff indeed. So that does it for the ultra wide. Now let's jump down to the primary and let's do it again. Continuous autofocus first. Here we go. 2 times. Bushes to the left. Okay, that looks good. Tree to the center. Okay, that looks good. Pillar to the right. That also looks good. Let's go again. That was 1. Bushes to the left. Okay. Tree to the center. Pillar to the right. That's number 2. All right, let's go again. Let me adjust my grip. Tap to focus time. Here we go. Bushes. Tap. Locked up. Tree. Tap. Locked up. Pillar. Tap. Locked up. Let's do it again. Bushes. Tap. Locked up. Tree. Tap. Locked up. Pillar. Tap. Locked up. Really good overall stuff in my opinion. Really good overall stuff indeed. Nice and fast. Nice and sharp. Really good exposure. Good stuff, Samsung. Good stuff indeed. All right. And now to round out the testing, let's test that zoom. Let's go. So we're going to come all the way out to the ultra wide, which is 0.5 times. And you're using the ultra wide all the way up to 0.9 times. Once you go into 1 time zoom, then you're on the primary 64 megapixel lens, and then you're using the primary lens from 1 time zoom all the way up to 3 times zoom. Once you switch over to 3 times zoom, you're using the telephoto 12 megapixel lens. Okay? And you're using the 12 megapixel telephoto lens all the way up to about 5 times zoom, and then you start digitally cropping the image after that. All right, so let's get into the zoom test. Y'all let me know how you feel the cameras perform for this last test. Let's go. So now we're on the ultra wide, okay, 0.5 times. Let's take it up to 0.9 times. 0.9 times, still on the ultra wide. That looks really good. Let's zoom all the way into that big bush all the way in the distance. So this is 0.9 times on the ultra wide. Let's go up to 1.5 times on the primary. Let's go. And this is 1.5 times on the primary. Okay. Let's go up to 2.5 times on the primary. Let's go. This is 2.5 times on the primary. What do y'all think? Let's go up to 3.5 times, which will switch us into the telephoto. So now we're on the telephoto at three times. Let's go to 3.5. Now we're on the telephoto at 3.5 times. Okay, let's go up to 5 times. Okay. Now we're on the telephoto at 5 times. And now let's max them out. Boom. So you can do up to 12 times zoom with your Samsung Galaxy S20 5G. And you can see why I don't recommend you use the maximum zoom. Look how pixelated that is. Look how washed out those colors are. Honestly, if you're using the ultra wide, you can stick with the 0.5 times here, or you can go to 0.9 times and still have a pretty good ultra wide image. If you're using the primary sensor, you can go anywhere from 1 times to 2.5 times. So that's 1 times, and here is 2.5 times. And look how good this image still is. And again, if you want to use the telephoto, anywhere from 3 times zoom to 3.5 times zoom is really good. So let me show you again. 3.5, look at that, looking crispy, looking beautiful. And 3.5 times, look at that, looking crispy, looking beautiful. All right, and I did set it up to use the volume rockers to zoom. This way I get that nice granular control, nice and smooth how I want it. Okay, but this, guys and gals, concludes the testing for the front and rear facing cameras, outdoors, daytime, good light in 720p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. Okay, now give me a couple seconds, let me run inside, let's hook up the cameras inside, and we'll get to testing out all the cameras indoors, daytime, low light, and see how they perform. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back with y'all with the next set of tests. I'll see you guys and gals in a little bit. Alright everyone, and now we are back in testing out the front and the rear facing cameras on the S20 5G in 720p indoors, daytime, low light. Starting off here, we got a nice vlog style stationary camera test, testing out the front facing 10 megapixel camera. And again, this is indoors, daytime, low light with no external microphone hooked up. So please let me know what you guys and gals think of the overall stabilization, the detail, the overall audio. Leave all your feedback down below. Okay? Now let me go ahead and spin the cameras around and let's get into testing out the rear facing cameras in this same lighting scenario. Give me a little bit, I'll be right back with y'all for the next set of tests. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Alright everyone, and now let's test out the rear facing cameras indoors, daytime, low light, 720p, 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So let's do some quick verifications and let's jump straight into the testing. Let's not waste any time. Let's go. Now starting off here, we're set to the ultra wide camera, and you can indeed see if I pan over that there is no other light source turned on in this low light daytime video here today. Okay, you can see my studio lights turned off, my smart lights are turned off. The only thing we have lighting up the scene here today, and yes, I know I got to get rid of these boxes. Yes, I know. The only thing I have lighting up the scene here today is the natural light coming in through the window here. So this is indeed an indoor daytime low light test. Alright, now let's angle everything up in the traditional reviewer style angle and let's start the testing here. Let's go. Now let me straighten this out. That looks about straight. Okay, let me slide everything forward a little bit. Okay, that looks good. Let me slide forward a little bit. Okay, and let's angle everything down. Bam. Okay, so this is what the ultra wide cameras look like indoors, daytime, low light. Okay, and if you notice, these are doing a really good job here right now, but there is a noticeable loss in detail. That's because the ultra-wide cameras really suffer when there is not really good to great lighting. So although the ultra-wide cameras here are doing a fairly okay job, you're definitely going to be able to notice the lack in detail, especially when we switch to the other two cameras. But here's what the ultra-wide camera looks like indoors, daytime, low light. Okay? Check that out. Check that out. And honestly, if you're a big ultra-wide user like myself, you only want to use the ultra-wide when you know you have really good to great lighting. This way you're getting the best overall possible video or photo. If you're not going to be recording in the best possible lighting, you want to be using the primary sensor. Okay? So now let's switch down to the primary 64 megapixel sensor. Boom. And here y'all can see the difference in field of view. Let me adjust this just a little bit so they look very similar. So again, here's the primary right here. And here is the ultra wide right here. Look at the big difference in field of view there. Okay? That's some really big stuff right there. Okay? So let's go back to the primary. My bad. Okay? And pay attention to how much more detail you get here, right? In the same lighting scenario. So let me pick the keyboard back up. Look at how much more legible and readable those keys are on the keyboard there. Check that out. Let me pan it through. Really good overall primary camera, even in a lower light scenario here. Let me pan it back through. Okay. And then check this out. Let me angle this up a little higher. Check this out. Let's now switch to the telephoto camera. And look at that detail there. Again, look how legible and crisp that text is in this lower light scenario here. Okay? Really good overall high quality telephoto sensor. Let's go back to the primary. Okay? Okay? And now we're back on the primary 64 megapixel sensor. Now let's do some focus testing and then let's wrap the video up. So, I got my S7 active right here. Let's bring this into frame. Look at how quickly the primary cameras lock focus on the S7 active. Check out the detail that's coming across from the stipple pattern on the back. Look at the nice shallow depth of field going on in the background right here. Look at this. Look at this. That's all natural shallow depth of field. Let's check out the smaller text at the bottom. How legible is that smaller text? How readable is that smaller text? Okay? How legible is that? How readable is that? Okay? Let me know down below. And then lastly, let's see how quickly it can relock focus on the keyboard behind it when we take our focal subject out of the frame. So let's remove the device and see how quickly it relocks on the keyboard. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And we're back on the keyboard. That was almost instant. And I was expecting a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of struggle, because it is a lower light scenario and cameras generally tend to struggle in the lower light scenarios. But you can see the cameras on the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G still perform just as good as if they have really good to great lighting in lower light scenarios. Let's check it one more time. So let's bring the S7 active back in and see how quickly it relocks focus. So bringing it back in. Little bit of hesitation there on the relock. I don't know how well y'all picked that up. Little bit of hesitation on the relock, but still fairly quick. Let's go down to that smaller detail again. How legible is that text down there at the bottom? How readable is that? How legible is that? And then one more time, let's see how quickly it relocks focus on the keyboard. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And we're back on the keyboard. A little bit of a slight hesitation that second time around, whereas the first time it was fairly instant, and you can see there was a little bit of noticeable hesitation when it relocked the focus. So these cameras do indeed struggle in lower light scenarios, but overall they do a really good job here. Really good indeed. And that does it for testing out the front and rear facing cameras on the S20 5G indoors daytime low light. Okay, now what I want to do is a little bit later on, we're going to retest the cameras again in nighttime artificial lighting scenarios. So it's going to be a couple hours for me. It's going to be a couple seconds for you guys and gals. Give me a little bit. I'll be right back with the next set of tests for everyone. I'll see you guys and gals in a little bit. All right, everyone. And now we are back in, and we're testing out the front and rear facing cameras on the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G. Now we're testing out the cameras indoors nighttime artificial light setting scenarios here. And starting off the testing, we're testing out the front facing 10 megapixel camera in 720p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. And what do y'all think? Nice, real quick, stationary vlog style footage here. What do y'all think? How's the detail? How's the stabilization? How's the overall color and representation? Let me know your feedback down below. Now let me spin the cameras around and let's test out the rear cameras in this same lighting scenario. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back with the next set of clips for everyone. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Alright, now as promised everyone, I just spun the cameras around, and now let's get into testing out the ultra wide, primary, and telephoto cameras on the S20 5G in 720p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up in this nighttime artificial lighting scenario here. So let's do some verifications and then let's jump directly into the testing. So if I pan over here, you guys and gals can see it is pitch black outside. Alright, so there is no natural light coming in through the window here, but you can see if I pan over a little bit more, I do have my artificial smart room lights going. So my smart lamps are going, my overhead smart lights are going, and everything is set to a nice white. Okay, but my professional studio lights are turned off. So this is indeed nighttime artificial light scenario testing here. Okay, now let me angle everything up in the traditional reviewer style angle and let's dive into the testing. Okay, let's go. So angling this back over, let's straighten them up. Okay, that looks about straight. And now let's angle it down. Okay, and here you guys and gals can see, let me go forward a little bit. This is what the ultra wide cameras look like in this nighttime artificial lighting scenario here. And you can see, even though this is what I would call decent lighting, you can see the representation or detail for the ultra wide cameras do suffer in this artificial lighting scenario. So you can see how grainy the text is on the keyboard here. You can make it out, but it's not as tack sharp as it would be if we had really good lighting or if we had really good natural lighting. Okay, and this is why I say if you're going to use the ultra wide cameras, you definitely want to be using the best lighting possible. This way you get the overall best performance possible. If you're going to be shooting, if I can talk, if you're going to be shooting in less than ideal lighting scenarios, you really do need to be using the best sensor on your device, i.e. the primary sensor on your device, the primary rear-facing camera sensor on your device. Okay? But this is what the ultra-wide performs like in this lighting scenario. So now, let's go ahead and switch to the primary 64 megapixel camera and pay attention to how the detail changes. It's going to get noticeably better. And then pay attention to the field of view. So you can see with this ultra wide camera, we get a lot more in the field of view, but it's at the cost of detail. But if we switch to the primary sensor here, we get a lot better quality, but we lose a lot of the field of view, as you can see here. So let me angle this up in a similar point of view to the ultra wide. There we go, something like that. And now you can see what the primary 64 megapixel camera performs like in this artificial low light or artificial nighttime lighting scenario here. Okay? So check that out. And then we can go a step further. If I angle this up just a little bit, okay, let me angle this up just a little bit. Check out how the telephoto camera performs. So let's jump into the telephoto here. Alright, and you can see, even if we line up on some of the text there on the keyboard, the telephoto is even doing a better job than the ultra wide cameras in this lighting scenario. Now, it's not as good as earlier, okay, but it is noticeably better than the ultra wide cameras. Alright, it's very legible. It is sharp enough, but it can be sharper. Alright, and it was noticeably sharper in the indoor daytime low light segment. Okay, so even the telephoto cameras suffer in this nighttime artificial lighting scenario. Just my opinion, just based on what I'm seeing. Let's go back to the primary sensor now. Okay, and now let's get into the focus testing with the primary sensor. Alright, so pay attention to the detail here. Let's hold up the keyboard here. Look at how much sharper and legible those keys are. Even in this artificial lighting scenario here, that looks really, really good. Okay, let's pan this through. Let's pan it back through. Okay. Now let me grab my S7 active and we can do a detail and focusing speed test. I put it over here. Alright. So now here is the S7 active right here. And look at that. Look at how the primary cameras pulled out the detail on the back of the device. Look at that nice stippled pattern going on the back of the device. Check out the shallow depth of field going on here around the sides. That's all natural. Okay. Nice blurred shallow depth of field effect. Man, this device looks great. Alright. Let's go down to the smaller, sharper text. Okay. How legible is that? How readable is that? And honestly, y'all, that looks really, really good. Really good. Alright, now let's check the focusing speeds. Let's see how quickly the cameras lock back up on the keyboard when we take the device out of the frame. Ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And it's almost instant with no hesitation. Check that out. Really fast focusing speeds there. Really fast indeed. Alright, let's check the refocusing. Let's do it one more time. So let's bring the device back in. Boom. Little bit of hesitation there, but it's still locked up focus back up on the device fairly quickly right there. And again, check out the detail on the back of the device right here. This looks really, really good. Alright, let's go down to that smaller text again. Again, how legible is this? How readable is this? Okay. And let's check the focusing speeds one more time. Let's go. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And we're back on the keyboard. No problems. So this just goes to show you that the primary sensor that Samsung chose to go with and their optimizations make this primary sensor really good regardless of the lighting scenarios. Alright? And this concludes the 720p testing with the cameras on the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G. Now what I'm going to do a little bit later on tomorrow, we're going to retest the cameras in 1080p. And then a little bit later on this week, probably at the end of the week, we're going to retest the cameras in 4K, and then we're going to close out the video. Now, this entire video will be shot in up to 4K 30 FPS resolution with the front and the rear facing cameras, right? But it will be rendered and uploaded in 2K 30 FPS resolution just to save rendering time and because of file size constraints. Okay, so we're gonna cap everything at 4K 30 FPS just to keep everything uniformed across the board. Alright, now y'all stay tuned. I'll be back with the next set of clips for everyone and the next set of tests for everyone. It's gonna be a couple days for me, it's gonna be a couple seconds for you guys. So I'll be right back with the next set of clips for everyone and the next set of tests for everyone. I'll see you in a little bit. Okay? Alright everyone, and now we are back in. This time we're testing out the front and the rear facing cameras on the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. Starting off here, we're in shooting space number 2. We're out here by the pool here today, and we're starting off with a stationary vlog style test with the front facing 10 megapixel camera. Again, this is being recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So you guys and gals let me know how the overall video quality looks, how the overall audio is, and how is the stabilization. Alright? Leave your feedback down below. Y'all know how that goes. Now let me spin the cameras around and let me give y'all a test of the primary cameras in this same lighting scenario. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back with everyone for the next set of tests. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Alright everyone, and now let's get into testing out the rear-facing ultra-wide, primary, and telephoto cameras in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up on the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G. So right now we're set to the ultra-wide 12 megapixel camera on the S20 5G, and let's get into the first part of the testing. Let's start off with some pan tests. So we're gonna pan all the way from here, all the way through to right about there. We're gonna do it twice. So that's one. Let's go on back. And here we go with number 2. Okay, that's 2. Let's bring it back to the center. Let's switch to the primary 64 megapixel camera and let's do the pan test again. There we go. So we're gonna pan all the way from here, all the way through to right about there and back. Okay, so that was 1. Here we go, number 2. And that's number 2. Let's bring it back to the center. Now let's go directly into the exposure testing. Let's switch back to the ultra wide. Okay, now we're gonna pan up and down. And what we wanna see when we test the exposure is a nice balanced transition from the lighter areas to the darker areas of the scene. And if the cameras do blow out or overexpose, we want them to recover as evenly and as quickly as possible. We're going to test the ultra wide and the primary cameras, and then we're going to move on to testing the focus. So we're going to test each camera twice. Here we go, set to the ultra wide. Let's pan them down. Pan it down. Good, and let's pan back up. Good. That's one. Let's go again. Pan down. Let's pan back up. Two. Good. Now let's switch to the primary 64 megapixel camera. And let's do it again. Let's line up on that water heater. Okay. And let's pan down. That's one. Let's go up. Pan down again. That's two. And let's go up. Good. How do y'all feel the performance was there? How do y'all feel? Now, I did notice that it wants to color shift the pool. Alright? So around the pool, it wants to color shift it to make it lighter than it actually is. So if I pan all the way down, you can see it color shifts it to a more off eggshell white with a white rim. But if I pan up, it makes it a little bit more saturated. It doesn't give it the actual color that the actual pool rim and deck has. So Samsung wants to play fast and loose with some of the color science and some of the saturation, but it is what it is, okay? Y'all let me know what y'all think down below in the comments. Now let's get into the focusing test. Let's do the ultra-wide cameras first, and let's pick our 3 focal subjects. So, I like this pool chair here, next to the table here. To my far left, we're gonna use that pool chair right there, with the back missing, all right? I also like this official pool chair right here, this lounge chair right here, off to my left, but not quite far, off to my right, but not quite far right. And then the back of the truck looks good. My red truck there, we're gonna use that as focus subject number 3. So those are our 3 focal subjects: the broken pool chair, the long pool chair, and the back of the truck right there. All right? Now, we're gonna test out the cameras 2 ways. We're gonna test out the cameras using continuous autofocus, and then we're gonna test out the cameras using tap to focus. The first one is gonna be using continuous autofocus, so the phone is gonna be doing everything. Then I'm going to readjust my grip, and we're gonna test out the tap to focus. And I'm only gonna report when I think the cameras have a lock. All right, so y'all let me know how the cameras perform, and let's get started. So continuous autofocus first. So it looks like we're lined up on that broken pool chair. Okay. Long pool chair. Okay. Back of the truck. Okay. That's one. We're gonna do each test twice. Let's go again. Broken pool chair. Long pool chair. Back of the truck. That's 2. Let me adjust my grip. Tap to focus time on ultra wide. Here we go. Broken pool chair. Tap. Locked up. That was instant. Damn near instant. Long pool chair. Tap. Locked up. Again, that was almost instant. Back of the truck. Tap. Locked up. And again, that was almost instant there, with a slight exposure adjustment. Let's do it again. Broken pool chair, tap, locked up. Big pool chair, tap, locked up. Back of the truck, tap, locked up. You can see a little bit of an exposure adjustment there. All right, but not bad. Overall, really fast focusing speeds here on the ultra wide. Now let's switch down to the primary and let's do it again. So 64 megapixel primary. Here we go. Continuous autofocus first. Here we go. So broken pool chair. That looks good. Long pool chair. It also looks good. It kind of wants to warm up the exposure on that one. Okay, kind of warm up the scene, but that looks good. And then back of the truck. Boom, that also looks good. Let's go again. Broken pool chair. Big pool chair. Back of the truck. That's 2. Let me adjust my grip. All right, tap to focus time. Broken pool chair, tap, locked up, that was almost instant. Big pool chair, tap, locked up again, almost instant. Back of the truck, tap, locked up again, almost instant. Let's go one more time. Broken pool chair, tap, locked up. Big pool chair, tap, locked up. Back of the truck, tap, locked up. Really fast focus on this one. Really fast focus indeed. Now to round out the testing, let's do a zoom test. All right. So I'm going to line up on the roof all the way out there in the distance. Okay. We're going to lock in the focus there. We're going to dial in the exposure there. Okay. And we're going to zoom in. All right. All right. That looks perfect for the scene. Right now we're on the ultra wide camera at 0.5 times. Okay. Let's zoom in to 0.9 times. 0.9 times on the ultra wide. Let's zoom in to 0.5 times. .5 times on the primary. That looks really good. Let's zoom in to 3.5 times. .5 and now we're on the telephoto, and that still looks really, really good here. And now let's max it out. .12 times digital zoom. And you can see when it's maxed out, the colors get washed out, the stabilization starts to get a little wonky, okay? And the image quality overall severely degrades, because after a certain point, after about 5 times zoom, you're digitally cropping the image, and when you digitally crop the image, it makes the image worse. All right? So, real quick zoom test there. Y'all let me know how you feel the cameras perform. Let's back out. And now we're back on the ultra wide. Let's put the focus and exposure back into auto. Now everything's set back to auto. And again, recommendations time. If you're going to use the ultra wide, you need to be using it between 0.5 times and 0.9 times. All right. That's where I like to use the ultra wide, either at 0.5 or 0.9. If you're going to be using the primary, you can use the primary between 1.5 right here and 2.5 right here. And you see that looks really, really good. And if you're going to use the telephoto, you want to be using the telephoto between 3 times right here and 3.5 times right here. Okay? Other than that, if you're going to use the telephoto, don't go up past 5 times, because then you're going to really start to see that image degrade. Okay? But those are my recommendations. So again, ultra wide, 0.5 to 0.9. Primary, 1.5 or 2.5. Okay? Telephoto, 3 or 3.5. All right? Now let's zoom out of here. Now what I want to do is I want to run inside, and we're going to test out these cameras again in indoor daytime low light conditions here. All right? So give me 1 second. I'm going to run inside. I'm going to set everything up, and I'll be back with the next set of tests for everyone. I'll see you guys and gals in a little bit. Okay? All right, everyone. And now we are inside testing out the front and rear facing cameras on the S20 5G in indoor daytime low light settings here in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. And starting off here, we're testing out the front-facing 10 megapixel camera in a nice vlog-style stationary test. So please let me know what you think of the overall video quality, as well as what you think of the overall audio quality and the overall stabilization. Alright, let me know what you guys and gals think of this. Now, let me spin the cameras around and let's test out the rear-facing cameras in this same indoor daytime low light scenario here. So give me 1 second. I'll be right back with everyone for the next set of tests. I'll see you guys and gals in a little bit. Alright everyone. Now, as promised, all I did was spin the cameras around and let's get into testing out the rear-facing triple camera setup on the S20 5G indoors daytime low light settings here in 1080p at 30 FPS, which is the default settings that the device comes set to out of the box by default. So let's do some quick verifications and then let's dive into the testing. Let's not waste any time. Let's go. So panning over here, you guys and gals can see that the only light source we have lighting up the scene here today is the natural light coming in through the window here. You can see my studio lights are turned off and my overhead and smart lamp lights are also turned off. So this is indeed an indoor daytime low light test. Okay? Alright. Just wanted to verify that for everyone. Now, let's angle everything up in the traditional reviewer style angle and let's start the testing here. Okay? So let's pan it back over. Let's make sure it's nice and straight. I'll slide it forward a little bit. And now let's angle it down. Boom. And this is what the ultra wide cameras look like and can potentially perform like indoors daytime low light in 1080p 30 FPS. Alright? And you can see for the most part it's doing a decent job, but you can also tell there's a noticeable loss in detail here, especially when we look at the keyboard right here. You can see, you can read it and it's legible, but it's kind of grainy. That's because the low light, the lower the light, the more the ultra wide cameras struggle. And if y'all checked out any other part of my camera review, I always say when you don't have really good to great lighting, you want to use the primary cameras on your device. This way you get the best overall image quality possible, right? But check out how that ultra wide is performing right there. Decent, decent. Alright? Now, let's switch down to the 64 megapixel primary and pay attention to the changes in detail. The detail quality is going to get better. Also pay attention to the changes in the field of view. This is one of the things why I love ultra wide cameras, the field of view. Alright? Look at the difference when we switch to the primary 64 megapixel sensor. Check this out. Alright. Oop, too far, my bad. So now we're on the primary 64 megapixel sensor. And look at that. Look at how much we lost in the field of view, but look at how much we gained in terms of detail. Right? Check out that keyboard. How legible is that? How readable is that? Okay? And even further still, let me hold it up for y'all. Look at how much more legible and readable that is. Okay? Even in this lower light shooting scenario here. Let's pan this through. Okay, let's pan it back through. Okay? And then check this out. Let's test out the telephoto camera here. So let me line this up. And now let's switch down to the telephoto. Okay? And check that out. Look at the key detail there. Look at how legible and readable that is. Even in this lower light scenario, the telephoto and the primary cameras do a way better job than the ultra wide cameras do. But by far, the primary camera in this low light scenario is leaps and bounds better than the ultra wide and telephoto cameras, even in this lower light scenario. Alright? Now let's switch back to the primary. And let's do some focus testing here. Alright, so let me grab a device. I got the S7 active right here. Let's bring it into the frame. Look at how quickly it locked up focus on the back of the device. Look at that nice shallow depth of field going on in the background. Okay, Look at how it's pulling out the detail and the stipple pattern from the back of the device. That looks really good. And again, we're in indoor, daytime, low light. And it's still doing a really good job here. Now let's go down to the smaller text. Again, how is it doing? How readable is that text? How legible is that text? Alright, so it's definitely struggling in this lower light scenario here today. How readable is that? How legible is that? Definitely struggling here. Definitely. Alright, now let's check the focusing speeds here to see how quickly it relocks on the keyboard once I take the device out. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. That was almost instant. Now if you pay attention, you can see there was kind of a granular slight hesitation and focus shift. If you go back and pay attention, you can see it. If you slow the video down just a little bit, you can see it. Now, I've been doing this for a while. That's why my eyes are more attuned to it. But I did notice just a little bit of hesitation there. But still, really fast overall focus in general. Let's see how quickly it relocks on focus when we bring the device back in. Okay, a little bit of a struggle there. I don't know if y'all saw that hesitation. But still relatively quick. Let's test it one more time. Let's go down to that smaller text. Again, how readable is this? How legible is this? Okay, that actually looks really good. Now let's see how quickly it relocks focus on the keyboard when we take the device out. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. And bam! So it did a lot better. The second time around, it did a lot better on the relocking of the focus. The first time around, it kind of struggled a little bit, but it still was relatively fast. But overall, it did a really good job here. Okay, so this concludes the testing of the primary and front-facing cameras on the S20 5G, indoors, daytime, low light, in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. Alright, now what I want to do is I'm going to wait till a little bit later on and we're going to retest the cameras, nighttime, artificial light scenarios, and see how they perform. And then a little bit later on tomorrow, I'm going to test the cameras in 4K at 30 FPS, and then we're going to wrap up the video, and I'm going to let you guys and gals know if this device is still worth picking up here today. Okay? So it's going to be a couple hours for me, so like a couple days for me, but it's going to be a couple seconds for you guys. So I hope you guys and gals are enjoying the video so far, and I'll be right back with the next set of tests for everyone. I'll see you in a little bit. Okay? Alright everyone, and now we are back in testing out the front and the rear facing cameras on the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G. Once again, we're testing out the cameras in 1080p, 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up, and we're testing them out in nighttime artificial lighting settings here. So starting off here, we're testing out the front facing 10 megapixel camera, 1080p, 30 FPS, no external microphone hooked up. Real quick vlog style stationary camera test here. So how do you feel the front facing 10 megapixel camera is performing in this artificial light setting here? How's the detail? How's the stabilization? How's the colors? How's the audio? Let me know all that feedback down below. Now let me spin the cameras around and let's get to testing out the rear facing cameras in the same lighting scenario. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back with everyone for the next set of tests. I'll see you guys and gals in a little bit. Okay? Alright everyone, now as promised, all I've done was spin the cameras around. Let's do some quick verifications and then let's dive into the testing on the rear facing cameras on the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. Let's go. Alright, so panning over here, we're starting out set to the ultra wide, and if I pan over here, you guys and gals can see there is no natural light coming in through the window here, but I do have my smart lamps turned on, And I do have my overhead smart lights turned on, and everything is set to a nice white bright color. So this is indeed nighttime artificial lighting settings here. But I am not using the professional studio lights. Not here. Okay? So, real quick verification right there. Now, let's angle everything up in the traditional reviewer style angle, and let's get into the testing with these rear facing cameras. Let's go. So, let's pan everything back over. Let's line everything up so it's straight. That looks good. Let me back up a little bit. And let's angle everything down. Boom. And let me straighten up my keyboard. Boom. And now, here is what the ultra-wide cameras look like in nighttime artificial light settings here. Okay? Let me hold the keyboard. Let me get y'all a good shot here. How legible are these keys? How clear are those keys? How easy are they to read? Alright? Now you can make them out, but as I said earlier, with the ultra-wide camera, you need really good to great lighting here. If not, you pretty much just want to stick with the primary camera. But you can make it out. It is usable, but it's not the sharpest. Okay? So check that out. Check that out. Right? And then pay special attention to the changes and the upgrades in detail when we switch between the cameras. Also pay special attention to the field of view. Alright? So this is the ultra wide 12 megapixel camera. Now let's switch down to the primary 64 megapixel camera. Look at the difference in field of view here. Let's go. And now we're on the primary, okay, 64 megapixel camera. And you see that big difference in the field of view? Let me back up a little bit and give it a similar angle to the ultra wide, just like that. Alright, so you see the difference there? And then if I hold up the keyboard here, look at the difference in detail. Look at how much sharper those keys are. Look at how much more legible those keys are here with the primary 64 megapixel camera. Let's pan this through. Okay. Let's pan it back through. Okay. And then check this out. Let's angle up the telephoto camera here. So let me angle it right here. And let's switch down to the telephoto camera and see the detail here. So let's go. And now we're on the telephoto camera. And notice the telephoto camera is doing a good job. Look at how sharp the text is here on the backspace key. Look at how sharp the text is here on the J, K, and L keys, right? The telephoto camera is doing a really good job here in this artificial light scenario here. The telephoto and the primary cameras are doing a noticeably better job than the ultra-wide camera in this lighting scenario. Alright? And that makes sense because the telephoto and the primary cameras are the better cameras comparing them to the ultra-wide camera. Okay? Alright, so I just wanted to showcase that. Now let's go back to the primary camera here. Alright? And now let's get into some focus testing here, right? So let me pick up the S7 active here that I have off screen, and let's see how quickly the primary cameras lock focus when I bring it into the frame. Here we go. Boom. And you can see that was relatively quick. Look at the detail they're able to pull out here with the primary camera there. Now it did have a little focus pulse right there, but look at that detail right there. Look at that nice stipple pattern on the back of the S7 active right here. Right? Now let's try to focus in on that smaller text down at the bottom. How legible is that? How readable is that? Alright? Y'all let me know down below. This actually looks really, really good. I can read that no problems. Look at the nice shallow depth of field going on in the background as well. That's all natural. This is not a shallow depth of field mode. That's all natural, caused by bringing the focal point into the camera. Okay? Now let's see how quickly the cameras relock focus on the keyboard when we take the device out of the frame. Ready? We're going to do this twice. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And that was almost instant. You can see, if you paid close attention, there was a little bit of a focus pulse. Okay? But you really have to be looking for it. Now, I noticed it because I've been using these cameras quite a lot to record video, not just to record this full camera review, but these cameras have been recording a variety of different videos on the channel, and I pretty much have a feel for how these cameras perform. So I'm used to how they behave, so I noticed it as soon as it did it. But if you go back and watch the footage again, you can see there's a little slight focus pulse before it grabs focus on the keyboard again. Let's see how it does with the refocusing. So let's bring the device back in. Okay. And now it did a little bit better job with the refocusing there. And again, check out that detail on the back of the device. Okay. And let's go up to the smaller text. Again, how legible is that? How readable is that? That actually looks really, really good. And again, let's see how quickly it relocks focus on the keyboard when I take the device out. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And see, that was a lot faster than the first time, and it was more like a gradual shift. Whereas the first time it was like a focus pulse. If you go back and watch, that second time was like a gradual shift from one focal point to the other. It was kind of smooth and slow, but it was still relatively fast. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's based on what I saw just looking through the viewfinder and how I feel the cameras behave. But overall, the focusing speed is relatively fast, but there is a noticeable delay in this lower light, artificial lighting scenario. Okay? But overall, I have to say the cameras on the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G are really, really good. And this concludes the 1080p testing. Okay? So now, a little bit later on tomorrow, we're going to do the final set of tests on the front and rear facing cameras in 4K at 30 FPS. And we are going to downsample all of the footage to 2K 30 FPS. Okay? But it will be shot in 4K 30 FPS. Alright? So it's going to be a few hours for me. It's going to be a couple seconds for you guys and gals. I hope y'all enjoy it. And I will be right back with the final set of tests for the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G. I'll see you guys and gals in a little bit. Alright. Alright, everyone. And now we are back in with the final set of camera clips testing out the front and the rear facing cameras on the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G. We're out here in the big yard today, and we're starting off the testing out the rear facing cameras on the S20 5G, because we're going to close out the video testing out the front facing cameras on the S20 5G. So let's not waste any time. This video is recorded in 4K at 30 FPS. With no external microphone hooked up, and let's dive straight in. We're going to do the pans, we're going to do the exposure test, we're going to do the focus test, and we're going to end off with a zoom test. Alright, so without further ado, let's get into these pans, and we're starting out testing the ultra wide camera first. Alright, here we go. So we're going to pan from here all the way through to right about there and back. We're going to do it twice on each camera. So that was one. Let's go back. Here we go with number 2. Okay, that's number 2. Now let's switch to the primary 64 megapixel camera and do the pans again. So now we're on the primary. Before we were on the ultra wide. Let's run it 2 more times. So we're gonna pan from here all the way through to right about there. and back. So that was one. Let's go on back. And here we go with number two. Okay. And that's number two. Let's bring it back to the center. Now we're going to get into an exposure test, and we're going to test the ultra wide and the primary cameras with this exposure test. We're going to do each camera twice. So now for reference, I'm sitting in the shade underneath my favorite tree here, and it is sunny out in front of me, but the daylight is kind of coming in and out. So right now I kind of lost the sun, but it's going to come back. But ideally, this should be a perfectly lit environment, but we're going to try to test the exposure nevertheless. So we're going to pan up and down from this tree in front of me to the grass here, and we're going to see how the cameras handle the exposure shifts. Ideally, what we would want to see when we test the exposure is a nice even transition from the lighter areas of the scene to the darker areas of the scene with minimal to no exposure blowout when we're transitioning from the two. But if the cameras do blow out, we want them to recover as quickly and as evenly as possible so it's not as jarring to us, the user, when that happens. So let's see how the ultra wide cameras perform, and let's see how the primary cameras perform. Let's go ultra wide first. So we're lined up on the tree, and we're going to pan down to the ground. Boom. And we're going to pan back up to the tree. That's one. Let's do it again. We're lined up on the tree, and we're going to pan down to the ground. Boom. And we're going to go back up to the tree. That's two. How did it do? Now I'm out here in direct sunlight, and it's really hard to see the display, even though I have the display on max brightness. Okay, so I won't actually be able to tell how it did until I watch the clip back in post. But you guys and gals, leave your feedback down below in the comments, because no matter how it does, I'm just going to put the video together and upload and publish it. Okay, this way y'all can see exactly how the cameras perform. So that was the ultra wide camera. Let's go to the primary. Okay, now we're on the 64 megapixel primary camera. Okay, let's pan them down so we're lined up on the tree, and let's go down to the ground. Boom. And let's go back up to the tree. Boom. That's one. Let's go down to the ground again. Boom. Let's go back up to the tree. Boom. That's two. All right. All right. Now, let's go back to the ultra wide, and let's get into some focus testing here. Let's go. So let's pick 3 focal subjects. Okay. This is my favorite mango tree to my far right. That's going to be focal subject number 1. Then we're going to use the mango tree directly in front of me here. That's going to be focal subject number 2. And then we're going to use the tree over the shed there. That's going to be focal subject number 3. Now, we're going to test the cameras, the ultra wide and primary cameras, in continuous autofocus mode. So letting the cameras do all the work. And then I'm going to adjust my grip and test it in tap to focus mode. And I'm only going to report when I feel like it reported a lock on the focus. So ultra wide first, then directly into the primary. We're going to test each set of cameras 2 times. Let's go. All right, so continuous autofocus first, and here we go. Mango tree to my right. Boom, that looks like it's in focus. Mango tree in front. Boom, that looks like it's in focus. And then tree over the shed. Boom, that also looks like it's in focus. That's 1. Let's go again. Mango tree to my right. Boom. That looks like it's in focus. Mango tree in front. Boom. That also looks like it's in focus. Talking mad fast today. My bad, y'all. And then tree over the shed. Boom. That looks like it's in focus too. Okay? So that was continuous autofocus. Let me adjust my grip. And let's run again. So mango tree to the right. Let me try to tap directly on the mango. Boom. and it locked up pretty much instantly when I tapped on the mango. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mango tree in front. Let me try to tap and line up on this mango too. Tap. Instant lock on there. It locked up instantly there. Okay? And then tree over the shed. Let me tap on it. Boom. And it locked up. Again, instantly there. Super instantly right there. Boom. So that's one. Let's go again. Mango tree to the right. Let me try some of these smaller mangoes off to the side. Tap on that. And it locked up instantly again. Can't phase these focusing speeds when you're out here in pretty much perfect lighting. Alright? Let's go mango tree in front. Let me pick a different mango to lock focus on. Let's use the big fat one there. Boom. And it locked up instantly again. Okay? Good stuff here with the focusing speeds. And then tree over the shed. Boom. I don't know why whenever I say tree over the shed, I always want to follow it up with that's what she said, even though that doesn't really apply. But every time I say tree over the shed, I want to say that's what she said. I don't know. It is what it is. But again, instant lock on when I tap on the tree. Super fast focus. No issues with the focusing speeds here with the ultra wide cameras. Now, let's switch down to the primary and let's run it again. So continuous autofocus first. Mango tree to the right. Man, look at them mangoes, man. It's going to be a good season this year. It's going to be a really good season this year. Alright, that looks really good. Mango tree in front. Look at that fat boy right there. Big and juicy, but still ripe. Gotta wait a little bit. That looks good too. And then tree over the shed. Why not? That's what she said. That's looking good too. I couldn't resist, y'all. My bad. I couldn't resist. Alright, so that was one on continuous autofocus with the primary camera. Let's go with two. So coming up, mango tree to the right. That's looking good. That's looking real good. Mango tree in front. Then mango is looking big and juicy and they trying to stunt. That's looking good too. That's looking real good. Alright. And then tree over the shed. Somebody gonna cut that bad boy down one day and hit somebody in the head. That's what she said. I don't know. These jokes are horrible today. My bad, y'all. But that's looking good too. Alright. Let me adjust my grip. Okay. And now let's do the tap to focus. So mango tree to the right. And let me tap on my favorite mango right here. That big juicy boy right there. Yeah, that's again instant lock on there with the primary cameras and the tap. Instant lock on. Let's go to the mango tree in front. And I'm going to pick a different mango. Let's use that smaller mango up in the bush there. Gonna tap. And again, instantly locking on to that. Instant lock on, super fast focusing speeds. And then tree over the shed. That's going to hit somebody in the head. That's what she said. Tap on that. Instant lock on right there as well. Super fast focusing speeds. And let's do it one more time. So mango tree to the right. Tapping on the mango. It's looking right. Mango tree in the front. Them bad boys looking good. They always trying to stunt. Tapping on that boy. Locked on real good. And then tree over the shed. That's what she said. Tapping on that. Locked on right away. Super fast overall focusing speeds. No issues with the focusing speeds regardless of whatever camera I use here. Really good stuff there. Really good stuff indeed. Alright. So last but certainly not least, let's do a zoom test. So we're going to go all the way out from the ultra wide and we're going to go all the way in and we're going to transition from all the cameras. So here we're on the ultra wide. Let's lock focus on that big tree in the distance, all the way in the distance down there. Not the mango, even though that mango is looking good, but that big tree all the way down there in the distance. We're going to lock the focus. We're going to lock the exposure and we're going to zoom in. So this is 0.5 times on the ultra wide. Let's go to 0.9. 0.9 times on the ultra wide. Let's go to 1.5 on the primary. 1.5 on the primary. Right there looking beautiful. Let's go to 3 times on the telephoto. 3 times zoom. Now we're on the telephoto, and that honestly is still looking good too, based on what I could see through the viewfinder here. And now let's go to 5 times, and then let's max it out. Five times on the telephoto, and again you can see how much more washed out the image is starting to get, how much more pixelated the image is starting to get. Look at that. All right, and then let's zoom all the way in on that tree, all the way in. 12 times digital zoom here. Look at that. That's a pixelated mess right there. Don't even do it. Don't even do it. Let's go all the way back out. And that pretty much wraps up the zoom testing. Let's re-engage auto on everything. So I tap anywhere on the screen to re-engage auto. And this concludes the rear-facing camera testing, guys and gals. Now what I want to do is I'm going to figure out a way to prop this bad boy up so I can give y'all a stationary front-facing camera test for the final time. And I'm going to give you guys and gals my overall thoughts in regards to the cameras on the S20 5G and whether or not I can recommend it. And then we're going to close the video out. So give me 1 second. I'll be right back with the final set of tests for everyone with the front-facing camera. I'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, everyone. And now we are back in with the final front-facing camera test on the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G. This is being recorded in 4K at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. Okay, so you guys and gals have seen all the photo samples. You guys and gals have seen all the video samples. How do I feel about this device in regards to the cameras? And can I recommend that you guys and gals pick up this device still here, late 2023, early 2024, if you're looking for a device that's going to perform great and give you phenomenal camera performance? Can I recommend that you guys and gals pick up the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G? Well, I'm going to have to say yes. Not only have I put this device through the full review process, but I've tested these cameras extensively. All right. Now I've tested these cameras extensively using Video Pro mode because I use these cameras to record a variety of different videos on the channel, and I always made sure that I stated which device I used to record what video. And I also made sure I always stated what resolution I recorded said video in. So you guys and gals got to see this footage in 720p, in 1080p, in 4K, and I even did an 8K video. Now I downsampled the 8K video to 1080p 30 because that file size was massive. But still, it was shot in 8K 24 FPS. And man, did it look good. But those file sizes were massive. But how do I feel about the cameras on this device? Now, I do have to preface this. I am a little bit biased towards Samsung cameras because I use Samsung cameras to record and produce everything on the channel. I use a Samsung device to record, produce, and publish and promote everything on the channel, whether it be my S10es, whether it be this device, the S20 5G, or whether it is my Samsung Galaxy Tab S6. All right. So primarily when I'm editing and producing and promoting, I'm using a Samsung device. So I'm not going to lie to y'all, even though I try to be as fair as possible, because I like these cameras on Samsung devices so much, I do have a tendency to be a little bit more biased. Okay? But that being said, in my opinion, I do feel as though the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G does have some phenomenal cameras on it. And even though it is an older device I might add, that you can get at a really great price, I can still easily recommend that you guys and gals go out there and pick up this device if you're in the market for a device and you want to make sure it has some really good cameras and you're really not trying to break the bank. okay, and you're okay with it being a little bit older, I can easily recommend that you guys and gals go out there and pick up this device. It should serve you well, okay? And that being said, I might just drop the full review for this device today as well, because I've used this device extensively. I pretty much have a really good overall idea of how it performs and how the battery life is. So I might as well just run back inside, record the full review, and drop the camera review and the full review for the device on the same day. We'll see. It depends on editing restrictions, how much stuff I can get done editing wise in one day. We'll see. But can I recommend that you guys and gals pick up the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G? Yes. Yes, I can. Yes, indeed. It is a great device. Honestly, in terms of the cameras, I haven't had any issues. Honestly, I'm just not a big fan of the curved display or the smaller battery. Okay? But other than that, if we're talking strictly based off of the cameras, I can recommend this device easily. Easily. Okay? So, I hope you guys and gals enjoyed this full camera review. I hope you guys and gals found it helpful. If you did, you guys and gals know what to do. I hope everyone is having a great day. I hope you guys and gals are staying safe out there. And I will catch everyone in the next one. We are out of here. Have a good one, everybody. Peace.